It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Q Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
Pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Coles Brown Show, watched exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly here, Carlos Brown. Coming up on today's show, the guest menu looks like this. Charles Edmond will join me shortly. He'll be a special co-host for today's edition of the Coles Brown Show. And then following Charles Edmond will be the coach. He returns, Coach Vann Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. He'll join me in hour number one. And then hour number two, Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football will join me talking all things Southwestern Athletic Conference and HBCU football. That's the guest menu for today. Let's start off with last week's ball game. Southern University had an opportunity to get an out-of-conference win against McNeese State. Played well for about 2 quarters, but you got to play a whole 4 quarters, a complete ball game for the Jaguars. They were not able to do that, and they fall to 1-2 on the season overall against McNeese State, 31-24. Now, to say just quite simply, disappointing. You're winning at halftime, 21-10. You had outstanding quarterback play in the first half. You're running the football, and Southern is built to run the football. The O-line has to be the biggest asset, the best unit on this 2021 football team. They were getting things done. And then in the second half, McNeese State quite simply said, in which I think will be the case going forward, if I take away what Southern University does best, and that's running the football, and they stack the box. Here's what they want to do. They want to see if Southern University can consistently win games. If I take away your best option, that's running the football, can you defeat us passing the ball? And in the third quarter, a huge interception by McNeese. Skelton throws an interception. Momentum sucks right out of Southern University. And McNeese comes down and score. And now you've got a ball game. So we'll look at some of the integral parts that happen in this football game. We'll get your opinions on Southern University and McNeese. But to say the least, the word I would use is disappointing. It was very disappointing. Let me see if I can have Charles Edmond to join me now. Charles, good morning. Welcome to the Coles Brown Show.
Good morning, Carlos. How are you on this Saturday?
Well, I'm doing fine. I'm feeling better. Although you go back to last week against McNeese State, and as I stated, it was an opportunity to win that non-conference game. Alcorn was able to do it against Northwestern State, and these are the games that really are benchmark games. So it was very disappointing that Southern could not finish, and they lose to McNeese State 31-24. Charles, so very disappointing. That's the word I'm using, disappointing.
Yeah, you would have been. I think you'd be feeling a lot better if they had won that game last week. Considering the Braves beat Northwestern State, and we were hoping that Southern would be able to get it done against McNeese. I was following the scores as it went along, and Southern had a lead and just couldn't hold it. And they're playing two quarterbacks these days with McDaniel as well as Skelton. We know what coaches say about that. And Carlos, you and I have had many a conversation. I'm a Skelton fan, and I know he's had his ups and his downs, and what I've seen with my own 4 eyes has been quite impressive. But then there's some other stuff going on in which he has not been quite as effective, maybe not physically, but maybe mentally. Maybe he's just not in it all the time. His head's not in the game all the time. So you have to do what you have to do to find someone that can get it done. And clearly McDaniel, Skelton, McDaniel or Skelton. I think there's got to be some discussions had. Now, can you piece it together with two quarterbacks? Sure you can. But I think is that the long-term solution once you get into the grind of it, when you're playing the Alcorns of the world and the Prairie Views of the world, you're going to have to find a guy and stick with the guy and hope he gets it done. And I think that's an issue that Coach Rollins has to deal with going forward. And if he doesn't fix it, I think in the big games in this conference, as tough as it is, it could come back and haunt Southern in the end.
And let's look at, as a starter, he has an impressive record. And by the way, who does Coach Rollins start tomorrow against Mississippi Valley State? You're hearing some things that it may be McDaniels. It could be Skelton, but here's the thing: against teams that are equal to Southern University or better, it just seems that there's been a struggle. I've made some notes. Targeting penalties, untimely turnovers, leadership has been discussed. Who are the true leaders? And then the leader doesn't necessarily have to be a senior. It could be a junior, it could be a sophomore. So, and we always talk about expectations. And I think every institution in this conference that play has a sports program, they have expectations. And once again, here was an opportunity to really have if I can say it this way, Charles, a diamond in the portfolio that you won an out-of-conference game. And it was an in-state school in McNeese State. And Coach Wilson pretty much at halftime went in and chewed his team out. Said, we got to put our big boy pants on. We're in a ball game. We've got to come out. And they came out, and they were able to take away what Southern likes to do. They made adjustments, the run game. And once again, can Southern University, that's a big question out there, can they consistently beat teams if they take away option one? That's running the football. So we'll see. If you look at the statistical story, Charles, McNeese State, 263 total yards. That's a big improvement from Miles the week before. Southern outgained McNeese State everywhere except the scoreboard. So we'll see going forward, starting tomorrow, a rare Sunday game. Who's going to be starting at quarterback? Can Southern University, and I think last week we had a listener that said, can Southern play a clean game? No penalties, or very few penalties, and can they put together a complete football game? Southern hasn't really done that. No, they haven't done it. Miles, they made adjustments third and fourth quarter. First and second quarter against McNeese, third, fourth quarter, not so well. So Charles, that's the question. All questions.
Yes, I mean it is. I mean, you're playing Mississippi Valley tomorrow. You have an extra day to get ready. My guess is that Southern's going to play two quarterbacks tomorrow. We'll talk about the predictions. I think Southern is probably the more talented team, and they should win the game if they don't play around with it, as the phrase goes. And when I say that, meaning you play around with it, you keep a team in the game. If you fumble around and penalties and the stuff that you've talked about, if you let Valley hang around, then you're opening yourself up to get beat. So I think that's something that, clearly that they got to play a good game, a sound game. I just think that you've got to find a quarterback and stick with it. I mean, I think it's, you can rotate in and out, but at some point, someone's got to take that mantle and run with it as the starting quarterback. And I'm going to go back to the McNeese game last week. I think we previewed it a couple of weeks ago. A game like Southern and McNeese, Southern, Southeastern, those games are big for a lot of other reasons. Recruiting. You got two schools 130 miles apart down I-10 in Lake Charles and Baton Rouge. They're going after the same players in the same areas. So when you're playing a team like McNeese and you win that game, then you have sort of a leg up on the recruiting wars. When you lose that game could come back and get you in terms of the recruiting wars as well. I think that's why, in my opinion, you know this better than me when it comes to Southern. And I've always said it should be automatic that Southern and Southeast Louisiana should play in football. But I understand from the other intangibles why they don't play, because I think two schools 30 miles apart, it impacts recruiting. If you lose that game, it helps you recruiting if you win that game, especially when you're going after the same kids. And of course, you're in the same area. So the intangibles of the McNeese game, is not going to take away from the fact you can still win the division and still win the championship. But in terms of the other stuff, the intangibles, it does hurt you when you don't win that game, especially when you've had a lead and you let it slip away. So it stings, it hurts. You got to clean some stuff up, but you would rather have it happen against McNeese than against Mississippi Valley, because that's conference, that's what everyone's talking about, and that could impact you long term.
Yeah, their Southern University goals are still in front of them. Win the Western Division, get into the championship game, and then a goal will be to win the championship. Now, if I can, Charles, I'm gonna go back to the quarterback situation. I'm not a coach. We all know this, right? But you know what? If it was me, and then there's some things that you saw on the sideline. Skelton's a graduate student. He's got his degree. Attitude reflects leadership. Leadership reflects attitude. Some things, and I understand that, if you get pulled out of the game, you're still a team player. You rally the troops. you go to the quarterback that is in the game at McDaniels, and you're encouraging to him, and you just got to have the right attitude. And you're an advanced student now. You've got a degree. You've been in the program some years now. You've got to clean up the attitude. And if you hadn't done it by now, it's different if you were a freshman. So I said all of that to say this. If I'm the coach of Southern University, I'm not the coach, I'm not going to play two quarterbacks tomorrow. I'm going to start, and I would start McDaniels. And look, by the way, Skelton had a tremendous first half. Tremendous first half. Probably not 100% physically, but from a mental standpoint, you still got to be focused into the game. If you get replaced, sometimes you may be taken out of the game for a series or two to kind of maybe see some things and we talk to you, but you got to have the right attitude. You got to support your teammates. I would go with McDaniels to start tomorrow, but of course I'm not the coach. And if McDaniels plays well, it's no disrespect to Valley, but it's all about Southern University right now. What they need to do, it's about them. You still have the goals in front of you. McDaniels will get the start. Now, because I've said that, it may be Skelton tomorrow. We'll see at a little bit after 2 p.m. But I'm going to take a time out now, Charles. We'll come back. We'll kind of look at the statistical story. It paints a picture. And then, by the way, speaking of finishing, Alcorn State Thursday night, I'm sure you'll be able to tell us about that. You know what? I'll share this quickly. I fell asleep late in the ball game, but Pine Bluff had it under control. And when I woke up about 30 minutes after the game was over, what? Alcorn came back. I can say never underestimate the heart of a champion. I also think of Alcorn was very fortunate. Some luck. All of that. UAPB, Western Division champs in the spring, felt disrespected. This was their opportunity. And boy, Doc gambled. He gambled. Oh boy, he gambled in the game. And hey, when you do that, you're a genius if it works. If not, you're considered a dumb person that made a dumb move. But we'll get into that and SWAC conference games for today, last week's game. And then also, Charles, the Pac-12 and the SWAC have an agreement. We'll talk about that. And Coach Pettaway will join us with his perspective on that. So we'll take a time out. You're watching the Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be right back.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry. HBCU League Pass. Watch your favorite black colleges. Some of the best players in the land. HBCU League Pass. It's game time. I'm proud and I love my HBCU. HBCU League Pass. Watch your favorite black colleges. Some of the best players in the land. HBCU League Pass. It's game time. I'm proud and I love my HBCU.
Sugar Chateau.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show. Heard and watched exclusively right here on the Black College Sports Network. I'm joined by Charles Edmond, special co-host, and we're going to agree sometimes, we're going to disagree. And boy, I mean, me and Charles with Skelton, he has stated Skelton is he's a Skelton fan. I'm a Southern fan. I'm a Southern alum. Skelton has all of the physical talent in the world. No doubt about it. Charles is just attitude sometimes and the mental approach to the football game or football games. But we'll see who's going to start Sunday. It is an important game because one, Charles, it's the next game for Southern University, and it is a conference game. So with that being said, 31-24, McNeese defeats Southern University. Just kind of give you some numbers. Net yards rushing from McNeese, 156. Southern University, 148. Southern attempted 41 rushes, McNeese, 43. See how the stats kind of are very close. Net yards passed and Southern, 207. McNeese, 107. Total offensive yards, McNeese, 263 on 65 plays. Southern University, 355 on 62 plays. So Southern University won the statistical story. They won the stats. They played a great first half. They didn't play 4 complete quarters. A disappointing loss. But defensively, they were able to limit McNeese to that many yards, 263. And then, Charles, if you look, Cody Ogeron, if you'd have told me he would have been 7 of 16 for 75 yards, sacked twice, I would have told you I was confident that Southern University would come out with the victory. But those were some of the important numbers. Time of possession, Southern 29 minutes and 47 seconds. McNeese 29 minutes and 16 seconds. Third down conversion. I know you like that, Charles. Southern 5 of 13. McNeese 7 of 16. And then penalties. Wow. Southern 8 penalties for 72 yards. McNeese 6 for 38. So penalties, being disciplined, playing a complete ball game, 4 quarters. And then, by the way, McNeese started off with a bang. As soon as you were in your seat, Mason Pierce, 100-yard kickoff return. And you're thinking, wow, could it be one of those games? And then Southern puts up 14 points in the first quarter, 7 in the second, 21 points, outscored 21-3 in the second half. Charles, that in essence was a ball game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 4-quarter game when you're playing on the road, just the little things that can come back and get you in these non-conference games. You know, the kickoff return hurt, just like in our game. Special teams played a factor in the game. You have to do the little things when you're playing those type of schools. I mean, in every game, the little things matter, but it seems like it gets magnified even more. The penalties, the mistakes, just those types of things, come back and haunt you. And when you're playing on the road, we were in Lake Charles 2 years ago, and Felix Harper came in off the bench and almost pulled that game out. And next thing you know, here we go, and it's Felix Harper's show. So I mean, we can play with teams like McNeese and Northwestern State, but you have to do the little things because it adds up. It will get you in the end. And let me say this about you're talking about Skelton. You and I have had this conversation for a couple of years now.
I think we'll have it some more.
And we're going to have it some more. But I want to share a story. Back in the SWAC championship game 2 years ago, we have the ESPN video feed in our booth. So when they go to a commercial, you see the commercial if you see it on TV, but we actually see the raw feed, what we call the dry feed or the dirty feed from ESPN. And the cameras were on Skelton when he turns the football over, when he fumbles, they show him going off the field behind the bench. And every time there was a mistake made, you saw him looking up in the stands. Of course, he's on Southern side, and the fans are kind of getting on Skelton, and Skelton's kind of going back at it with them. And you and I have talked about this for 2 years now. You know, he's got to fix, he's going to hear the negativity when he makes a mistake. But how do you drown out the noise and just play on to the next play? And I think that's something that Skelton struggled with over the years. When he makes a mistake, instead of moving on to the next play, he still kind of, relives that mistake. And one mistake leads to another and another. And next thing you know, it costs you the ball game. So, I mean, I think that's something he has to work on. I think the coaches have tried to work with him on it, but it's something he's got to fix. And they've got to circle the wagons to fix that, because I do think Skelton will be a big part of Southern's offense before it's all said and done. In what way, whether it's Wildcat, whether it's quarterback, I don't know. But the mental aspect, he's got to fix that if Southern's going to go anywhere.
I want to read a comment, Willard. Appreciate you watching and listening. He simply asks, Charles, can he play clean in a big game for 60 minutes? Willard says history suggests no. And if you look at Skelton as a starter, a very good record. But if you look at 5 losses, 3 have been to Alcorn, 2 now to McNeese. Because of 2019, same situation in a way. Southern was up twice in that game, and then they lose 34-28. Willard also says, as was the case against UAPB this spring, the Jazz gave up a punt block. Unacceptable in a big game. So, yeah, we can add special teams, a kickoff return, block punt. And as you stated, Charles, those are some of the little things that can add up to big things that can add up to a loss. My colleague said that on the SWAC conference call, Coach Rollins stated that, they took Skelton out to kind of check on. He had kind of got hit on the play and wanted to check on him. I understand that, if you're taken out of the game, again, as I stated earlier, it's not about I, it's about we, and you are a team player. And we've seen in the past that when some adversity hit, as you stated, Charles, how do you act toward that adversity? And if you're the leader and you have leadership qualities, the team counts on you. So this team is very talented. What did we say all before the season? Southern University was in championship mode. This team was built to be successful. They still can get this done. But the things that need to be corrected, they've got to correct it. Moving forward, you've got UAPB coming up. You got to play Prairie View. You got to play Jackson State. You got to play FAMU. You have Grambling. You have to win the week. And you're not at the point right now where you can take off a Saturday or a Sunday. Yeah. You got to get it done. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you talk about leadership. Okay, so if you compare and contrast what you had to deal with last Saturday at Southern and McNeese, what I just dealt with 48 hours ago, Felix Harper's the leader of this team, down 26-7, playing as bad of the first half as you could possibly have, and then playing as terrific of a second half as you possibly can play. That's leadership. I mean, Harper did not look well at all in that first half. The Braves didn't look well. But yet they rallied, they found a way. Now, granted, Doc Gamble opened the door for us on some situations, but at the same time, we were able to stick with it. We never gave up and we kept fighting. So you talk about leadership, Skelton as well as Felix Harper, both veterans, and they've been there, done that, been through the wars, and you saw one rally his troops and you saw another kind of fall by the wayside. But you're exactly right. I mean, there is no off weeks here. I mean, you look at Valley, they're playing 90 miles from their campus in Memorial Stadium tomorrow. There's going to be quite a few Valley nights there. The Jaguar Nation will be there as well, but I guarantee you, Coach Dancy is going to have this team ready. And he even was quoted in the paper this week, like, the problems start with me. I've got to fix this. So he's putting his team on notice. Hey, guys, we got to get this thing done right here and right now. And you got a Jaguar team that's kind of going sideways. What a way to do it. So it's, someone's got to get it going here a little bit, because there is no rest for the weary. And no one's going to feel sorry for you. Not in what the SWAC is set up now with being a gauntlet every week. The Braves already have made the first statement. Southern can't afford to fall in the abyss.
And wow, that term is very interesting because Southern still, this is their first conference game, but they got UAPB. You've got Prairie View. You've got Jackson State coming up. You have to be focused now. And you got to clean up the things that you're not doing well. And the Jaguar Nation, they can get pretty antsy pretty quickly. So it'll be interesting to see if Southern University comes out, cuts down on the penalties, be able to put together 4 quarters and play a complete ball game. And if they're able to do that, they're favored to win, but you got to go out and do it. You got to go out and do it. Now, Charles, go ahead.
You're being the Jaguar Nation, Carlos. You said Jaguar Nation is going to start getting antsy. That's being mighty kind, Carlos Brown. You know Jaguar Nation is a little more than antsy.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from some already, and you can say I said disappointing. Some are disappointed. Southern is the standard. That's their motto. Also, they're expected to compete for championships. They're in the championship mode. Expectations are higher. So we'll see. Starting tomorrow, the slate is clean as far as conference record. Let's see if they'll be able to do the things that they need to do necessary to get off to a good start in conference play. I'm going to take a timeout. And when we come back, I'll visit with Coach Vann Pettaway. Charles, a nice announcement by the conference with an alliance with the Pac-12. And guess what? If you're Southern, Texas Southern, you'll go to a Pac-12 team. But guess what? The following year, Pac-12 team comes to your home arena. I'll see what Coach Pettaway has to say about that. It seems to be outstanding. Dr. McClellan has put together this along with the commissioner of the Pac-12. So my big question is, Charles, will we see a tremendous crowd when those teams come to the SWAC arena? We should see.
No,
you can go ahead quickly.
Okay, yeah. The answer is tremendous. I'm not going to quite go that far. I think there'll be bigger crowds than what you would see if you were playing down. You know how we do. We'll play Miles College or Tougaloo will play down. You'll have decent crowds there. I think the crowds will be bigger than what we would normally see for non-conference tilt, because those teams get a lot of play throughout the country. You're talking about the UCLAs and the USCs and the Stanfords and the Oregons of the world. Those teams have been to Final Fours. So yes, quality conference when it comes to basketball, and it's a good relationship. And I hope it festers throughout the entire conference, in which every team in all 12 teams can make that happen. And I think if that happens and we get bigger crowds, thumbs up to the SWAC and Dr. McClellan for making that happen. It is needed. We do need to get some of our games against those teams at home, because we don't, to be quite honest with you, for obvious reasons. But I'm glad we're able to make this happen, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it works out.
Well, I'll say it's a tremendous opportunity at hand. and we'll see how it works out. But when I come back, we'll visit with Coach Vann Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. You're watching the Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
Is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Into these colleges, and we have to fund our kids in these colleges, and we have to make sure our kids have seats in these colleges.
Now, what about HBCUs? You mentioned
absolutely. You got to fund them all, and you've got to make sure they're properly funded. You know, the real reason why I went after Comcast and Charter, it didn't have anything to do with my cable networks. It didn't. What happened was a gentleman wanted to do the Black College Sports Network in partnership with the HBCUs. And Comcast did not accept it. And that would have made a lot of money for these black colleges.
Absolutely.
And it would have educated the Black College Sports Network. This is what he wanted to do. That would have educated a lot of black kids. And when they didn't do that, that's when I came off the bench and said, okay, I'm going to light you up like a Christmas tree. Okay? That was the real reason why I got into it, was when I saw what happened with the Black College Sports Network, which I don't own. I just knew.
Why didn't you buy it?
I just knew. I just knew that these black.
I like that talk.
Right? I knew that these black colleges were going to benefit, and these black kids were going to get the education that they deserved and not have to pay. And that.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show here on the Black College Sports Network. I'm Coles Brown, joined by Charles Edmond, and now joined by Coach Vann Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. I simply like to call him the Coles Brown Show's basketball analyst. Coach Pettaway, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Carlos. I'm happy to be here.
You're coming to us live from Mobile. I guess there's a big game going on today, right, Coach?
Well, anytime the Bulldogs take the field, yes, it's a big game. Yeah, we're down here for the Gulf Coast Classic between Alabama A&M and Tuskegee, and I'm looking forward to all the festivities.
Well, Alabama A&M is a team that, in most cases, most polls, they're number one. And, hey, so goes Alabama A&M, Akil Glass, and Coach Maynard. Hey, good times are rolling in Huntsville, Coach.
Yes, they are. He seems to be a dynamic coach. I really like his personality, and my only regret is I didn't get a chance to work with him. I like football coaches that are for everybody, and he seems to be one of those type people. And so I'm hoping that the good times will return to the Hill for all the sports.
Yeah, I made a trip there a long time ago. It was a humbling experience. Humbling experience, Charles and Coach Pettaway. Alabama A&M defeated Southern that day, and I'll tell you the year, 1999, I believe. I hope I'm correct on that. 99 or 98.
Yeah, well, see, Charles has experienced a few victories in Huntsville. I was never able to get his former coach, Coach Whitney. I was never able to get him on the reservation. When I did win, it was in Huntsville.
Yeah, Coach Whitney, wow. Rest in peace. A tremendous basketball player.
Basketball is great for the SWAC. I think the coaches in the league I did get an opportunity to talk to at least one of the guys in the league, and they're saying the same thing, that it could be a good deal for the SWAC. The only thing I hope is that there's a financial piece that we are not aware of that goes along with this. Because in that first year, next year, Southern will be at Arizona, FAMU will be at Oregon, then Alabama State will be at Southern Cal, and then at the same time, Arizona State will be at Texas Southern, Colorado will be at Grambling, and Washington will be at Prairie View. And then the other 6 schools that are not involved in this, they'll get the chance to go 2 years after that. And I think it's just great because at some point, UCLA will get an opportunity to come to one of the SWAC schools. Whatever school gets that, I think it'll be a gold mine. That should be a big payday for whatever school that gets an opportunity to host UCLA, because I think that will draw our fans' interest, and definitely the UCLA Bruins, if they're alumni in the area where that game is being held. I think it's good for the league. And my hat's off to the commissioners from both leagues for putting this together. I just hope that there's a financial piece. And when I say that, at least defray the cost of the HBCUs going out to the Pac-12, because those are some very expensive trips. But the educational piece and the Pac-12 willing to extend an olive branch to the SWAC, I think that's awesome. That is awesome for college basketball.
And Coach, when you say the financial piece and you say like cost of traveling, I guess from your time, and I know we previously talked about you didn't take a whole lot of those type of trips, but what would be, say, a financial help for those SWAC institutions traveling to the Pac-12 institution members?
Well, I think if they just take care of hotel and transportation, the flights, I think that'll help the schools out. Because when we normally do a guarantee, I give you something that's for real. If I do a game guarantee for $100,000, well, before the school receives that $100,000, my expenses are taken out. In other words, my flights, my hotel, all of that's taken out. The only thing that I did not mess with was the food portion. The food portion, I wanted to have more control over that. But in terms of that visiting school, that school that I'm getting that guarantee from, I would let them subtract my expenses from the hotels and my flights, take that out. So now instead of the school netting $100,000, it's going to be minus my travel expenses. And I think if they put something in place like that where they can help them with travel, because otherwise your budget's going to take a big hit now, because you got to go to the West Coast, and there's no bus company that's going to take you to the West Coast. So you're dealing with flights, charter flights, and things like this. So that's the only thing. But the concept, the idea is great. I think Kentucky did it first by reaching out to Southern. I think in this day and time, we need to take advantage of the way society is going right now. And the SWAC has definitely jumped on board. At the conference office, they're forward thinking. They're looking at the future, and this is outstanding. Home run. This is a home run. Or in my case, basketball, this is a slam dunk.
Slam dunk. I'm visiting with Coach Vann Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. And Coach, if we look at the reverse of that, let's say in Southern's case, then Arizona comes to Southern University. Right. Now, I know from a coaching standpoint, you're going to have your team fired up and ready to play. But how can those institutions take advantage of having a team like Arizona or Oregon come into FAMU, Arizona State at Texas Southern University? What do you think would be, as far as attendance? Would we naturally see a jump in attendance? But how would Coach Pettaway set up that whole event when they came to Alabama A&M?
Well, first of all, I would have lobbied for a team like UCLA. I would want a UCLA or either a Arizona to be the team that we play home and away, because now I will put on a special promotion for that home event, because I really think that whoever gets you at UCLA, that's going to be an automatic draw, not only from your fans, but from their fan base too. So I'm looking at ticket sales, and I think from that standpoint, it would be outstanding. And I'll give you a matchup I wish they had done. I wish Texas Southern had to play Southern Cal for the women's game, because I would love to see Cynthia Cooper have Southern Cal to come into Houston and play them at Texas Southern. I think I think the female game would have been an instant sell-out because of her relationship with them. So it's an intriguing matchup. I really like it. But if I were coaching, I would definitely promote my game, because I will want the fans to come out and welcome those people to Huntsville.
Sounds like you would have in-depth meetings with
the
director of athletics, even 6 months away before that you have that home game, because it's a tremendous opportunity. And, you know, and we look at I've seen some of the teams have already released their non-conference schedules for this year. And once again, hey, doesn't matter if I like it or not. They've got to do, meaning the Department of Athletics, do what they have to do to bring revenue in. But we see, Coach, once again, I had a chance to look at Southern, Alcorn. They're on the road a lot.
Right.
A lot. And then when you come home, of course, the record's not going to be good.
Right.
But to me, it just kind of takes away the enthusiasm, you know, knowing that my team has been, I hadn't seen them maybe once or twice, if you're lucky. Then they're on the road. But as Charles Edmond joins us back, Charles and me have had this discussion before. Coaches are going to be analyzed on winning the conference and winning the conference. But when will the point come where we'll be able to have some success in non-conference games?
Well, I think with a good recruiting class, some of the coaches will. But now you think about this, you know, since I've been associated with you all, I've expressed my feelings about the game guarantees. I think you do it you can do them, but it should be a minimum, not a maximum like they're doing now. Okay, and then now you take the football piece. Who's saying the same thing? Coach Prime, Dion, he's saying the same thing about those guarantee games. You know, what do you really gain from them when you expose your kids against a team that they cannot match up with? You know, you're taking away that kid's confidence. And in a lot of cases, you don't get that confidence back. So you have to be very careful when you schedule all those games. Yeah, you could take 1 or 2 or 3 at the most per year. I'm for that. I'm for helping the athletic department make money, but I am not, the coach is not the main fundraiser. So to continue to use these teams as a fundraising mechanism, I don't agree with it. I do not agree with it. Not at the maximum level. You do it a minimum. Yeah, every year as a basketball coach, I should go out and at least play a couple of guarantee games. But I personally will not schedule 13, 14 guarantee games. I want home games. I want my fans to see my players. I want my players to gain confidence. I want my players to feel good about themselves. You don't feel good about yourself when you get in your head beat by 50 or 60 points. And there's nothing that kid could do on the floor, because it's a difference in talent. It's a difference in talent a lot of times. So I've been on that bandwagon since I've been coming on your show. I'm not going to leave that. And now you get more people like Dion. I heard Coach Sanders. He's saying basically the same thing. And he was talking about Louisiana Monroe. That's not even a Power 5.
Yeah, Group of 5. And by the way, they played.
They should have won the game.
Yeah, they played a hell of a game. You know,
right? They should have won it. Yep.
Well, that is debate that we'll continue to have, the pros and cons, and I agree. I mean, I understand why they do it, but yes, I would limit those games. And I remember I got an email from a Southernite who basically said the athletic department would be history if they couldn't play those type of games. Like Southern University is playing LSU September the 10th next year.
Yeah, but Carlos, 1 or 2 games is not gonna kill your program. I'm talking about the teams that have played 13, 14 guarantee games. The fans don't see them until the conference play starts in January. That's not good. And see, this agreement with the Pac-12, that helps that situation, because now at least we know they got one home game before the conference schedule. So now I'm not saying that the disagreement between the Pac-12 is bad. No, I think it's great. Just don't load up your schedule with 14 agreements like this in the same year.
I understand. Charles, are you there? I'm trying to see if Charles is. Okay. So me and Charles kind of had some debates about that, and Charles basically said that coaches are going to be judged on their conference record. Correct, Charles?
Well, that's what some people say, but that's not always true. They go on overall record. They don't. When I sit down and did the evaluations with the administration, they didn't go on. Well, coach, you had a winning record in the conference. You're doing fine. No, they look at overall record.
Wow. So if you're 2-12, 1-13 coming into conference play, and then if you bomb in conference, they'll be ready to get rid of you.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
But you help them bring money into the program by having all those type of non-conference games, those guarantee games. That's a tough situation. I'll put my foot down, and I guess I wouldn't be working at the institution too long.
Right. That's exactly what's happened in a lot of cases.
Charles, any comments?
Well, I agree with what Coach Pettaway said. I do think that what's happening now behind the scenes is that a lot of these coaches are being judged by conference, and I think it's kind of a hush-hush deal. Like, look, we understand that you're playing the UCLAs and the Dukes. We're playing Gonzaga, all Corners, Washington State. We understand those are going to be tough games. Do the best you can with it. But yet there's a mandate to bring in a certain amount of money, based on the games that you don't have to play against those mid-major schools. So that's a big help as well, if that's the number. I don't know what it is, excuse me. But if it is, then that helps, excuse me, that helps you as well. So I understand, I get, and Coach Pettaway been in that gauntlet. He knows, when your AD says you got to bring in this amount of money, and however way the schedule goes. Now, some schools, the AD makes the schedule. And I know for all core, Coach Bussey makes the schedule, and he kind of gives me a heads up in terms of who he's looking at playing. The SIUEs of the world, the Milwaukee, Wisconsins of the world. I know we got that. So, the coaches are controlling the schedule in many cases in the conference, in which they're trying to craft the best schedule that they can come up with to make the most money, but yet at the same time not demoralize your team. And that's a tough balancing act when you have to go through that. And that hasn't changed, Carlos, in 30 years. I mean, we had this conversation now. We had it a year ago. We had it 10 years ago. We had it 20 years ago. Yeah. It's just reality. It's probably not going to change unless or until we get more games out of conference at home, or we fill up our arenas even during conference games, which we don't always do. And that's the same analogy we had for football when we had that conversation last week.
Well, I really think the ADs have to, and I guess I'm taking a little shot there. I think that ADs have to come up with creative ways to balance this. And what I'm saying is balance. Hey, you can have a couple of those guarantee games. You mix in some, because there's a formula for it. and some mid majors. Of course, no, you're not going to get as much from Tulane as you would get Duke in a home and home, but you've got to find that balance. And you're right. Got to get better attendance for the conference games. In Southern's case, I guess it's Grambling State's always their best attended conference game, and then I guess you can throw in Alcorn State, and then a Jackson State. But then that Jackson State game is always on a Monday, and that's tough for some. But hopefully they can just look at this and kind of find a happy medium, a balance. Because again, I'll go back and 10, 20, 30 years. I think of one game Southern played Texas A&M at home. Adarius Smiley was at Southern.
Yeah.
They blew out Texas A&M, a nice crowd. And that was something that you could build on. So Coach Pettaway, help me out. Where can we find this balance? So we won't have this conversation 10, 20, 30 years from now. Well, I won't be here in 30 years probably, but
yes, you will.
You
will. You will.
I'll be 87, huh?
Yeah. Everybody's got to get to the table and talk just like we're talking now about throw out the pros and cons, and then we come up with a happy medium. Remember, I'm saying, yes, you play some of those games, but not your entire preseason schedule on game guarantees. That does not, it helps the bottom line for the athletic department, but it does not help the bottom line of those student athletes that have to go through that. And we're supposed to be thinking about the athletes while they're on our campus and when they leave our universities. So now are we sending them away in the right mental frame of mind? No, you're not when you put them through that gauntlet and there's no relief. So that I think that needs to be addressed.
Who's the majority, the major fundraiser? Is it the coach or coaches, or should it be the athletic directors?
And not necessarily. I don't think it's all on the AD. I think at each institution, that's where your development office, that's where your fundraising people come in. It should be a combination. And if the athletic director, yes, that AD should be able to go out and get funds that does not come from his teams exploiting the schedule.
Well, I can say this, Carlos. Our basketball coach, Landon Bussey, has had 2 meet and greets in our area, one in Vicksburg and one in Natchez. I just got a call the other day. He's gonna have one in Jackson next month. So he's doing what he can do in reaching out and getting alumni support and trying to bring in those dollars that way. I mean, there's more than one way to get stuff done. But those guaranteed games can be tough. I mean, Texas Southern plays the Michigan States and the Michigans, and when you can upset those teams, that helps your team, that helps the SWAC as well. But you don't see that very often. I mean, it just doesn't happen. I think one year, Texas Southern beat Kansas State, Michigan State, and we were riding that horse all year long, and it actually helped them when it came to the NCAA tournament. But we got to get more of that as in the conference in order to improve our standing in the NCAA tournament. Instead of a play-in game in Dayton, we could be a 13 or 12 seed. In order to do that, every team in the league from 1 to 12 has to play a solid schedule and win some of those games. We got to win some of them. 2 or 3 a school. I think we definitely will get out of the play-in game whole, and we'll be maybe a 12 or 13 seed. And I like our chances then because I think we would be that good. But I think this conversation, it's going to be tough until we can make more money at home to play less of those big money games.
I agree, absolutely.
I think we're going to see more schedules looks like this in no particular order. Michigan State, Arkansas, the University of Florida, Virginia, Gonzaga, and I won't see you until you get home in January for SWAC play. And then I'm hoping that the fans will say, well, we're going to come out because we've got a shot to do well. Balance is what I'm hearing. Balance. And find a happy medium. Coach, appreciate the time. Enjoy yourself. Don't eat too much, but then if you do, I won't hold it against you.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys. You all be safe, and God bless, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Coach.
All
Enjoy
right.
the rest of your weekend. That was Coach Vann Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Charles, before we go to our next guest, I'm going to pull up some comments here. Troy says, we need to stretch the field more to keep teams honest. You know what he's talking about? Again, Charles, if I'm going to play Southern, if I'm a defense coordinator, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if you can beat me throwing the football. Now, they've got weapons. Ethan Howard, Kirkwood. They've got weapons to utilize. But that's a strategy I'm using. And if you beat me throwing the football, I'll live with that. But that's what Troy says. Keith says, good morning, Carlos and Charles. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning.
Michael says, good morning, Carlos and Charles. Good morning. Derek, and I saw another comment. Derek put hashtag Alcorn Nights for Skelton. You know what? and Charles, and you know, Derek, I love you to death. He's an Alcorn Night. I'm not surprised by that statement because you remember I said this once before in Birmingham. I said, Coach Rollins, the quarterback competition, it's going to be won in practice, I'm hearing. He said, yes. He says, but I'll tell you what, Skelton at the time was so many wins and only, four losses? But 3 of those losses at the time were Alcorn, but 3 of the 5. Lost twice to many, but it's not just on Skelton as a team, right? It is going to be very interesting how the rest of Southern season is going to go, Charles. Balance on offense is a good thing. And running the football, throwing it, cutting down on those penalties, and continue to get better every week. That's what I want to see. So to you, Derek, yeah, you're being facetious there. No, you really believe that. You really believe that. All Cornites would love to see Skelton the next time they play, Charles, and you would too. What is it? Do you fear? You fear somebody else? McDaniels? Do you fear McDaniels or Lampley?
No, those dual threat quarterbacks, as we know, are so dangerous. And early in the Alcorn Southern games, whether it's the SWAC championship games or regular season, early in those games, I mean, they were so productive. Skelton was getting it done, the dinks and dunks, the check downs, and then all of a sudden the Braves made the adjustment, and then they put some heat on them, and then things change. I mean, that's what happens. I mean, that's why adjustments get made. But Skelton's, I know what fans are saying because Skelton's a turnover machine, and when you get to him and you rattle him, he's going to make all kinds of mistakes, and he's going to hand you the football game. But what if he doesn't do that? What if he is solid? What if he runs the RPO game correctly? Skelton is a dangerous.
I would like to see that, Charles, for 4 quarters.
I know you would, but the sample size that I've seen in the games that Skelton has played and started, he worries the heck out of me. When it's going, it's going. And you know, for Alcorn, when you got Nico Duffy going, that opens Felix Harper. And you saw what he did in the second half the other night. I mean, we couldn't run the football. We couldn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, we're able to, stretch the field a little bit, run the football, and then everything opens up. Felix Harper almost threw for 400 yards. You've got to commit to running the football. And if you can't do that, you're not going to have success. And I think what you're saying is that teams are going to stack the box. But you've got to be able to balance it out a little bit to where you stretch it a little bit to where you get your quarterback comfortable, your running game comfortable. And then the field is yours. Whatever you want to do, you can do. Pitch and catch, whatever you want to do, you can make that happen. But I think what happens, though, I think the Braves are a little more committed to running the football because they have the tools in the backfield to run the football. And they're confident enough they can stick with it, be productive. I think other teams bail out on it maybe sooner than they want to, and then they stretch the field. There's only one team that doesn't commit to the run as much, but you got a terrific quarterback, and that's Alabama A&M. They're going to beat you throwing football, throwing it all over the yard. Glass going to throw for 500 yards. That's what they do. They throw first. When they had Jordan Bentley 2 years ago, they were dangerous. Now, and I'm sure they'll probably get that running game going a little bit, but that's what A&M does. Southern, to me, running the football is what they do, and you got a quarterback in Skelton that just adds another layer to that. When they're productive, Southern's a pretty dangerous team. You bail out of it and make it one-dimensional, then it's advantage defense.
Well, let me say this, and then we'll take a timeout and we'll bring in Brandon B.J. Jones. To me, a definition of a dual-threat quarterback is a quarterback that can both equally do well, run, the athleticism, and then able to make the throws. That's a dual threat. Dual means two, not handicap. And I just think you have to give teams options of you're going to have to be able to stop both running and throwing it. But when teams make adjustment and they force you to do something that you haven't consistently been able to do, thus we see the problems. McNeese made adjustment. They said, we're going to shut down, we're going to stop the running game. Now, you can argue, well, maybe they should have stuck to the run some more. They ran in the first half successfully. When someone makes adjustments, can you counter that? So we'll see what BJ has to say about all this. I'll read some more of the comments. I'll give you one more. Appreciate you, Mike. Michael says Bubba will start. I predict he will start, but again, we shall see. I'm hearing some things behind the scene that McDaniels will get the start. We're going to take a quick timeout. When I come back, I'll be joined by Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football. You're watching the Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show here on the Black College Sports Network. Now joined by Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU Football. B.J., I think you're going to have to save me today. I've quieted it down. I'm trying to look at things objectively with what happened with Southern and McNeese State. So I'll give you the floor, kind of give you your thoughts a week later on the Southern and McNeese State football game.
Well, I think we saw Southern do some good things in that football game. They outgained McNeese again. Turnovers were the big factor in that football game. You saw a football team in the second half that felt like they had no identity offensively and left your defense out there a little bit too long. You know, there's only so much you can put on your defense. And in the second half, the offense just put a lot on them with the turnovers and the short fields, and you had special teams blunders, you name it. Trust me, I understand the frustration. I know a lot of Jaguars are frustrated, but, hey, this is a new week. This is a new week. And the thing about it is the season has not started how we wanted it to go. It has not started. No one, I thought realistically Southern could have been looking at, 2-1 after the first 3 games. Nobody saw 1 and 2, but the thing about it is the goals that this football team had set before the season started are still before them now. You just have to make sure that you take care of business week in and week out.
Is the saying, and Coach Odom used to say that win the week.
Mm-hmm.
And so this week you got to go 1-0.
Yeah.
Next week you got to go 1-0. Let's just kind of get your thoughts on this. And let me say this: I understand quarterbacks take a lot of the frustration. When things go wrong, a lot of the blame goes to the quarterback as far as the play on the field. If we look at I thought Ladarius had an outstanding first half. I mean, really, he did.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to run the offense, to make the throws. In the second half, it seems like McNeese State made some adjustments. And to me, and let's see if you see it this way, they basically said, we're going to take away what you like to do best and what you've been successful in, and that is they forced Southern University to throw. Now, first half, they were throwing well. Second half, not so well. And then the interception was one of the momentum changers that McNeese was able to go down the field. Is this something, BJ, that your defensive player, former defensive player, defensive analyst, football analyst, are we going to continue to see this? Teams are going to say, we're going to scheme, the Skelton doesn't beat us, and we want to prove to us that Skelton can beat us, or Southern University can beat us throwing the football.
Absolutely, 10 times out of 10. If you look at Southern University, really over the last couple of seasons, Southern University has not ranked high as far as passing yardage in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Run offense has been either at the top or 2. Passing offense has been near the bottom, so teams are going to definitely scheme against that. Another thing that jumped out to me about that ball game was you didn't see Ladarius Skelton pull down the football and run like he normally would. Or when he did, he was very indecisive when doing that. I know I saw that and I immediately had question marks about his health and how comfortable he is, because he's not shy about running the football. He did seem like that during that second half last week.
Well, I don't think he was 100% healthy.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion. But as you stated, the goals are still in place, and you can start reaching toward those goals by tomorrow? Boy, that's weird saying tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit after 2 p.m. against Mississippi Valley State. Now, on all accords, Southern is favored, and they should win. Is it tomorrow all about Southern? And no disrespect to Valley, but it should be all about Southern tomorrow.
It's about Southern and their ability to go in and take care of business, and that's what it's going to be about. You never allow your team to play to another team's level. There's a certain standard that you have to play to week in and week out, regardless of who your opponent is. And this is going to be a test of that. The Southern go in to Jackson, Mississippi tomorrow and play to the level of a Mississippi Valley and have one of those situations where you have a couple of weeks, we had a Miles football team that hung around longer than what people expected. Or do you play to your standard, take care of business, you're fundamentally sound, not turn the football over, playing solid both offensively, defensively, as well as in the special teams, and take care of business. So it's going to be interesting to see if Southern does that on tomorrow.
Sounds like to me, you're saying Southern has to put together a complete game, 4 quarters. And
Yeah.
we really haven't seen 4 quarters yet. Tomorrow will be a excellent opportunity, a chance to do that, BJ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
We still have Charles. Charles, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Okay. Got everybody back. Guys, what about last week in the conference? What games stood out to you?
For me, it was Alcorn State in South Alabama. Charles, we spoke the last week about the tumultuous time down at Alcorn, and he had been around that program and for some time. And it's one of the roughest weeks that he can remember. But to have a performance the way that they had on Saturday night down in Mobile, Alabama, with an opportunity to win that football game, should have won that football game. A controversial call, right there towards the end. I'm pretty sure that Charles was, felt pretty good. Now Thursday night, I'm pretty sure he probably had to check into the cardiologist a couple of times to make sure that everything was all check and go. But last Saturday, just watching Alcorn and the way they competed against South Alabama, I was pleasantly surprised.
Charles, did you have to go get a checkup after the game in Pine Bluff, or you waited till you got back to the state of Mississippi?
No, I got checked out in between quarters, the first quarter and second quarter. They had a doctor in the press box. I had to go visit him because it was I didn't know what team I was calling, to be honest with you. I mean, you had a 65-yard kickoff return to start the game. They score. Then Felix Harper throws a pick six. It was just awful. I mean, we played about as bad of a half as we could play in that first half, down 26-7. And then we played last gamble, riverboat gambler, and he gambled in the second half a couple of opportunities, and he lost, and it cost him the football game. I mean, you could play it out any way you want. Look, the Braves just played hard. They executed. They couldn't run the football in the first half. And Carlos, you've talked about this throughout this show. What's Southern's issue? You've got to be committed to running the football. And when I see a Southern University team in years past with Devon Bean and Washington and that crew, when they can run the football, they're pretty good. We couldn't run the football. We weren't very good in the first half. But yet we got the running game going. We got Felix Harper out in space. You had to account for him. Then that opened up everything else. The Charles Pringle and everybody else got involved in catching the football. Then our defense stepped up. So, I mean, it was one of the great comebacks I've seen this Braves football team make in the 30 years I've been doing it. I mean, you go back to the McNair days. I mean, you wouldn't see something like that down 26-7. The way Pine Bluff was taking it to us, you just didn't see that happening. But we found a way. Our defense got off the field enough.
But BJ, some could say Alcorn was very fortunate to be able to come back in that ball game, because it could have got away from them early in the ball game. And I was getting text messages from Alcorn Knights were saying that they thought the O-line was just the O-line play was subpar. And if you look ahead now, Alcorn could very well. I mean, they got to work on some things, but you could look at maybe Alcorn coming into A.W. Mumford Stadium undefeated in conference. But boy, it sure looked like they were gonna lose the their first game in the Western Division and their conference opener to University of Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Yeah, but the thing about Alcorn, a lot of the opportunities they had in the second half, they created those opportunities. They forced the turnovers. They forced, those punts. Every time it looked like Arkansas Pine Bluff had a chance to kind of blow it open, something happened. You saw a turnover, you saw a fumble, you saw something. So Alcorn made their opportunities. Give them a lot of credit. I think that if you're Arkansas Pine Bluff fan, you're looking at that opportunity. I think it was in the fourth quarter where you could kick it and add some points, and you go for it, and you don't come away with anything. I think there were a lot of people Friday morning quarterbacking on that.
In other words, he's gotten some emails, he's gotten some calls on social media. He's hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at it, that doesn't mean the end of the conference season, but they still have an opportunity. Now they're going to need a little help.
Yeah.
You're talking about really competitive every week. Every week. So the Thursday night game, 39-38, Alcorn State over UAPB. Elsewhere in the conference, you saw some UAPB lost to Central Arkansas. Of course, Southern lost to McNeese, and those were out of conference games. But Prairie View, BJ picks up a big victory against Houston Baptist. So they were able to win outside of the conference.
Yeah, and it was kind of explosive. They were back and forth for a while there, and then Prairie View finally pulled it off. Jawan Pass, the way that he's throwing the football for Prairie View, he is emerging as one of the top quarterbacks in this conference, and this quarterback that has an abundance of quarterback talent. Hey, that was Felix Harper, Jawan Pass, Skylar Perry, Keel Glass, Shador Sanders. There's some quarterbacking being done in the conference, but Prairie View is going to be very interesting to see what happens today in Dallas, Texas, with those storylines, with that football game, Prairie View and Grambling in the State Fair Classic.
And BJ, and just listening to you rattle off the names of the quarterbacks, you're looking at offenses that have consistently thrown the ball very well.
Mm-hmm.
And the teams that have not been able to, I guess I'm saying, to me, I look for balance on offense. A team that can throw it all the time but can't run the football. I've heard some Jackson State fans and alums talking about they would like to see Jackson State be able to get their running game going. So how important is it to be balanced? Or do you want to be in a shootout every week knowing that I can just outscore anybody? What happens if you have an off day offensively?
Yeah, when you have an off day, you're putting a lot of pressure on that defense. And when you're one-dimensional, you usually can't hold on to a lead. And incomplete passes equals, stoppage of the clock. You're not able to wear guys down. So you want to be balanced. You want to be able to keep the defense honest. If you're one-dimensional, it's easy to game plan against you if you're doing one thing. So having that ability to run the football effectively and throw it effectively, that's a big thing. We talk about the numbers that Felix Harper had on Thursday night. Look at those rushing yards for Nico Duffy. When Alcorn was able to get that running game going, it opened up everything else. All of a sudden, Felix Harper wasn't under as much pressure as he was in that first half. So having that threat of the run, keeping defenses honest, and then also, like I said, being balanced, that makes your offense that much harder to stop.
Jack says, I don't think the Mississippi Valley State game will solve any of Southern University's quarterback problem. BJ, you're the coach. You're head coach Jones. Who do you start tomorrow against Mississippi Valley State? I know practice is important. You win the position in practice. Is there a quarterback problem for Southern University, or are we maybe over-exaggerating it?
I think that there's a offensive identity crisis too a little bit. We both said on this program earlier that we don't think Ladarius Skelton was 100% healthy, which hindered his ability to pull down the football and run it. You have a capable quarterback. Actually, you have two capable quarterbacks. But you have one that's very good that showed the week before in Bubba McDaniel that he's able to lead this football team. I think, with Southern, I think you have to find out if you're going to go with two quarterbacks, how and when. And with Ladarius Skelton, I think he's too talented to not be on the football field. How do you use him not only as a quarterback, but maybe in the backfield, maybe as a receiver, maybe several other things that can help this football team. And the bad thing about it is you have to figure that out while all the bullets are live. You're figuring this out during the season. If I'm a head coach right now, if Ladarius Skelton is not healthy, then I don't want to risk him. I'm going with Glendon McDaniel as a star quarterback.
What you're saying, we saw glimpses of that in the spring in the Bayou Classic for one. Mm-hmm. We saw Skelton on the field at the same time. We heard before the season started that there was going to be kind of I think I named it a Taysom Hill package. And I understand what you're saying. If he's not healthy, then that puts a different spin on it. But all things being equal, if he was healthy, do you think we would see some type of package where you have both of them on the field at the same time?
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure you would. I mean, one thing about Zach Grossi, he's an innovative offensive mind. You saw some creativity to his play calling last week. His play calling, if you look at it, is actually a thing of beauty. I'm pretty sure he has all things that he's drawn up for this football team that includes Ladarius Skelton and possibly another quarterback as well.
Going to be interesting. I visit with Brandon B.J. Jones of Inside HBCU football. Any other games that you want to discuss or talk about? If not, we'll just move ahead to this week's schedule in the conference, because they've got some big games, and I tell you one, Grambling State and Prairie View State Fair Classic. BJ, you're hearing all kinds of rumors, discussions, talk about a loss for Grambling State. Fans are happy. I'm hearing it could be a move made. Kind of, Fobbs has done an outstanding job at Grambling State, but I guess it's what have you done for me lately? But Prairie View and Grambling State, I think Grambling State can play better, but I like Prairie View in this ball game, especially from an offensive standpoint, and Grambling State lack of offense. And their defense is going to be on the field a long time, and then eventually knows what happened. But how does Brandon B.J. Jones see it?
I mean, this one's rough, man. This one has all the storylines, man. You talk about Prairie View, they've played better. Grambling defensively can play with anyone. Offensively, and they're talking about offense's highest output is 184 yards through 3 games. That's bad. It's not good. They barely cracked 100 yards of total offense a week ago. Only 3 total first downs. But that defense, is going to have to play stellar for Grambling to have an opportunity. They're going to have to play solid defensively, solid in the special teams, maybe a kick return, punt return, maybe a block kick or punt to set up a short field. If they're not able to do that, Prairie View's going to win this one. Prairie View's going to win this one. And now we're talking about 4 in a row, Carlos. We're talking about 4 in a row, Prairie View over Grambling. When has the last time that happened? And if that happens, it's not simply just because it's 4 in a row to Prairie View. It's who that 4 in a row is. It's the offensive coordinator. And when you went to the Celebration Bowl, when you were garnering all that success, he was the offensive coordinator. You remove him from the program. Now Grambling State has gone trophyless. No Bayou Classic trophy. No State Fair Classic trophy. No SWAC Championship trophy. People are going to start to ask a few questions up there in northern Louisiana if they lose. They've already asked them the questions, but they're going to want some action if Grambling loses this football game on the day.
In other words, it sounds like you're saying the pressure is there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Big time. So Grambling State, Prairie View, A&M 4 p.m. in Dallas. Delta State at Jackson State. You know, a few years ago, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, I remember Delta State defeating Jackson State. Now, Jackson State, from the outside looking in, I'm going to tell you, defensively, they have a juggernaut. Mm-hmm. And passing the ball as well. If they're able to be balanced and improve on the running game, very dangerous team. With all that being said, I like Jackson State in the WC Garden Classic today.
Yeah, I think Jackson State can get this one done. I think that this one will be close. The problem with Jackson State is this, 1.9. And Jackson State averages 1.9 yards per carry, which is the worst in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. That offensive line, as far as running the football, run blocking, they ain't the best in the world. They're not particularly great at pass blocking either. Shedeur Sanders has a little shape to him where he's able to move a little bit to the left, move a little bit to the right. He understands pocket presence to be able to escape pressure. But one thing about Delta State is this: they have one loss from the season. That one loss was a 1-point loss to West Georgia. Delta State plays in the Gulf South Conference, which is known in Division II football as the baby SEC. The national champion from Division II football usually comes out of this conference. You have a few contenders. This is the conference that produces Valdosta State, West Florida, the reigning Division II national champion. Valdosta State, Division II national champion before that. West Alabama, North Alabama came from that conference. This conference plays some great football. If you think that Jackson State's going to go out there and just drag Delta State from one end of the field to the other one, you might be in for a surprise. They're going to get a good football game. But I think at the end of the day, I think Jackson State pulls it out.
Closer than some people may think or predict, correct?
Yeah, it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. And Jackson State better pull this one out. Because if they don't, there's going to be a lot of questions.
I think today, let's see if Jackson State improves on running the football. Wow, 1.9. That's literally non-existent. You're throwing 40 plus times a game. Let's see if they're able to improve on the running game for Jackson State. Elsewhere in the conference, Bethune-Cookman at Alabama State. Boy, Bethune-Cookman, last time I saw them, they were fighting tooth and nails with Alabama A&M at Alabama State. BJ, I don't know. Bethune-Cookman, tough, physical. Alabama State, still question mark to me. How do you see it?
I think that this game is a statement game for both programs. I think that for Bethune-Cookman, if you want to stay in that race in the Eastern Division, you got to win this one. And if you're Alabama State, you don't want to start off 0-1. Not with what the schedule has looming for you. Because if you lose today, if you're Alabama State, your next four: FAMU, Jackson State, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Alabama A&M. Find another guaranteed win in there. You're talking about some weeks of you talking about some rough scaling. So for your Alabama State, you got to right the ship. You got to get this one today at home. I think this one right here is going to be key. If you're Bethune-Cookman, if you lose this one, you can go ahead and just start writing about 2022 because this is almost over as far as the SWAC conference championship is concerned. So this game is going to be key. Talk about coaches on the hot seat: Donahue, Ely, Alabama State. You lose this one with those next four that you have. You talk about people who will make a move mid-season. Alabama State has shown they'll do that. So this is going to be key for both of those programs.
I may have to, he's not going to tell me much, but I might have to call my friend Dr. Cable now, the director of athletics at Alabama State. BJ, he's not going to tip his hand one way or the other. But to your point, they could be in serious trouble. And I think previously you talked about by October for some teams, it'll be a clear picture that their path may just be really good for them, and particularly in the Eastern Division, i.e. Alabama A&M. Because if you get two or three losses, it's pretty much a done deal.
Yeah.
Elsewhere in the conference, Texas Southern at Rice, 5:30 p.m. ESPN Networks. By the way, Bethune-Cookman and Alabama State, ESPN Plus. It's just a tough situation at Texas Southern. And albeit they're playing up against Rice, it's going to be tough. And, you know, you're talking about hot seats with Ely Hill. I think it's another hot seat in Houston.
Yeah. Texas Southern winless has not won a game since, I think, 2018. Yeah, it's rough there. And you see the individual talent that they have there. Jalen Brown at quarterback. You see the individual talent. It's not enough. Not enough. And I think this might end up being another rough season for Third Ward Tigers down there at Texas Southern.
Playing Rice, playing up, it has just been tough. And then we've kind of been talking about it a little bit already, but Sunday, 2 p.m., ESPN Plus, Mississippi Valley State hosts Southern University. Southern, it's all about Southern. Corrected some things, but I think at the end of the day, after the gun is sounded, the clock strikes zero, BJ, Southern will win this football game. You know, I've had people been texting me, they want a 50 piece, they want 40. I will just take a win in playing 4 quarters of football, cutting down on mistakes, and just playing hard. Yeah. I'll take a win. If it's a 1-point win, yeah, I'll take it, but I'll be disappointed. But hey, you just got to come out and win the week.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Southern, you go out here and take care of business. I don't get into the 50 and the 40 points and all of that. You just have to play a solid football game for 4 quarters in all 3 phases. Disciplined football. We're talking about 2 targeting penalties per week for Southern. That's discipline. The personal foul and holding calls. That's discipline. So playing disciplined and solid football for 4 quarters, that's what I'm looking for.
And that would be disappointing regardless, but is it more disappointing because you basically have a team that's back from last year, 2 years ago, a senior-laden ball club? Is it more disappointing because it seems like no one is stepping up from a leadership standpoint? We talked about coaching and making adjustments, but is it more so disappointing because this team has been together for a while?
Yes, it's very disappointing because you have guys who have been through the fire for the last 3 years. You know, a lot of those guys who are starting have been started since 2018. So there's just mistakes that you don't expect from veterans, from a veteran-led football team. There's just certain things I don't expect for you to do when you're year 3 as a starter, as opposed to year number 1. So I think a lot of people are disappointed with that.
And outside the conference, I want to get your thoughts. North Carolina A&T and North Carolina Central, a lot of smack, trash talking. I think, and North Carolina A&T winless on the season, but I think they want to get into the win column, and what a way to do that against North Carolina Central, who's an improved team. But BJ, I look for North Carolina A&T. My prediction is North Carolina A&T wins this ball game. You agree or disagree?
Oh, I agree. I like North Carolina A&T to get this one. They're chomping at the bit. This is one of those rivalry games I was able to attend back in 2016 and 2017. It's one of the most intense rivalries, and not only black college football, but in the nation. These two, they hate each other. And they can be doing something that doesn't have anything to do with each other, and they're going to bring the other one up. Like if you go to the Celebration Bowl, you've seen the Where's NCCU sign. They hate each other that much. So this is going to be an interesting ball game. North Carolina Central got scared to death last week against Winston-Salem State. Probably looking ahead to this ball game. This ball game, it means a lot to the people of North Carolina, especially when Winston-Salem, A&T, and Central all are playing each other. I think that's a big thing. I like to see it. Coach Bill Hayes will be in the building today to see that one. But so much going on, but I like the Aggies to pull it out. And I think they'll pull it out by about 14 points or more.
Wow. You know, I'm kind of been shy about predicting 14 plus the double digits. I've had some early predictions in the season, and boy, egg in the face. But
oh yeah,
you're the analyst, and we still can't live down, albeit it's still early. Remember, SWAC media day, our predictions for the East.
Yeah.
In the conference. A couple of people have let me know about my prediction skills, but hey, it's still early. Anything
still early. Everything's still intact.
Yeah. So, and at the end of the day, if those predictions are wrong, I'll come back and say, well, I was wrong. Moving on. I'm going to take a quick time out if I can, and we'll come back and wrap up this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be right back.
This is Ryan Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Welcome back to this final segment of the Coles Brown Show. Now we're going to be joined by Charles Edmond via the phone. Wi-Fi is important, Charles, but sometimes you got to make adjustments. So welcome back, Charles.
I appreciate it, and yes, you are right. Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi. It's consistently inconsistent a lot of the time, but there are other options. So here we are.
Well, my last guest, Brandon B.J. Jones, we were talking about the upcoming games for the day's schedule. So I'll give you this opportunity to talk about the games for Saturday, September 25th. Delta State and Jackson State, a huge matchup. B.J. says, don't sleep on Delta State. I know, 4, 5, 6 years ago, Delta State defeated Jackson State. And Charles, he also said something, and we started looking at the statistics a little bit more closely. Jackson State averaging 1.9 yards on the ground. Basically one-dimensional, but defensive, they've been getting it done. What do you think about this ball game today?
Well, I mean, if what we talked about in that last hour about teams' inability and ability to run the football, that's key. Southern struggling to run the football. The Braves struggled to run the football in the first half, did it in the second half, and they were able to open things up and win the game. Jackson State offensively, you still got Shedeur Sanders. It's still a learning process for him. And, yeah, their defense is playing lights out, but they got to score some points. For Delta State, this is their Super Bowl, if you will. This is one of those games that we talked about in the last hour, the recruiting ground, the fertile recruiting ground in the state of Mississippi. Delta State's in Cleveland, Mississippi, located in the Delta of Mississippi. They're trying to get the same players, even though Jackson State's got a bunch of FBS players from the transfer portal. You still want to do some damage in state. And this is one of those games, if you win that game, you have a little bit of a recruiting edge. If you lose this game, you lose a little bit of an edge, even to a team like Delta State in D2, in which they were good once upon a time many years ago. I think Jackson State, it's about the Jimmies and Joes. I think Jackson State has more talent, and I think Jackson State should win the game. They'll be flying around. It's their first home game. I'm going with Jackson State, albeit if they play around with it, as I hear on the street all the time, if you play around with it and let Delta State hang around and they make a play or two, they could win the game at Veterans Memorial Stadium. But I'm going with Jackson State.
Got you down for Jackson State. Alabama A&M and Tuskegee. Tuskegee, boy, I can say this, not the Tuskegee that you're accustomed to seeing. Alabama A&M down in Mobile, Alabama. I think Alabama A&M rolls in this football game, and I think they will be able to take Tuskegee out early.
Yep. No one has been able to slow down A&M yet. It's been going on 2 years now. And I have not seen it yet, albeit we talked about it. It could catch up with them at some point. If their defense doesn't get stopped, then their offense might be a little bit off certain games. But I don't see it happening today. Based on what I saw with Tuskegee and Fort Valley, I have no reason to believe that Alabama A&M will struggle in this game. So I'm going with A&M.
Both agreement on that. Grambling State and Prairie View. And I stated in the last segment that Grambling State alum, fans, supporters, they're not in a good mood. And I believe Prairie View will win today's ball game. And then you're talking about a multiple game losing streak. Is Coach Favre in trouble?
Based on what I'm hearing, these next 3 games are critical, are going to be make or break. You got Prairie View today. In a couple of weeks, they come to Alcorn. These next 3 games, 2 to 3 games, are going to be important for Broderick Favre. Now, I'm going to step back and say you can't base it based on Houston and Grambling played Houston and Southern Miss. You can't base it on that a lot, but they've been shut out the last 2 weeks. That offense has got to get going. Yes, it's fairly new. Yes, you still have growing pains, but you got to score some points. And right now, the talk at Grambling and Tigerland is play the kid Biden from New York. He was the best quarterback in the city of New York coming out. And it may be time to throw him out there and see what he can do. I'm going to go with Prairie View in this game. As much as I hate to say that because Grambling is my alma mater, this offense has struggled. And if they continue to struggle, and we know Dooley can put points on the board, Prairie View's going to win this game.
Yeah, I got Prairie View winning as well. Bethune-Cookman at Alabama State, Texas Southern at Rice. Bethune-Cookman, they've had a rough start. You know, in the first week, everybody was singing their praise, playing within 10 points and playing up against Texas El Paso. Then they played up again the second week and got blown out. And then against Alabama A&M, they were able to come within 3 points. Does Bethune-Cookman have enough to challenge Alabama State? Another loss, and they're 0-2 in conference play in the Eastern Division. I'm going to take Bethune-Cookman in this one. I'm going with the road team. I think they pull it out. Their physicality, both offensive and defensive, I think it will wear Alabama State down. I think you may disagree on this one, Charles.
You know what? This is probably more of a toss-up for me. Bama State, I think they got to get that offense going. I think defensively they're fine. They're playing at Hornet Stadium, correct?
Yeah.
Or is it in Daytona?
No, it's in Montgomery.
It's in Montgomery. I'm going with Bama State. If this game were in Daytona, I would go with Bethune-Cookman in this game. I think Bama State plays well at home, well enough. You know, they beat Jackson in the spring. They seem to get up. I'm going with Bama State in this game only because they're playing at home and they play better at home.
Texas Southern at Rice playing up. It's been tough for Texas Southern. Rice wins this football game.
Yes, definitely. Texas Southern has definitely struggled. You know, you got to feel for Coach McKinney. He just can't seem to get it off the ground, you know, and how long does Kevin Granger, the AD, and the supporters and boosters there give McKinney time? Right now, you know, it's tough. It's tough sledding. I'll go with Rice in this game, even though Rice, you know, I look at Rice kind of in the same vein. You look at New Mexico State and Texas El Paso. If Texas Southern shows up and does something and push Rice a little bit, It could be an interesting game, but I don't see that happening either. I'm going with Rice in this game. I'm pulling for TSU, but the reality is I think Rice will probably win this game big.
Because if Texas Southern comes close, we'll say it that way. If they come close within 15 to 20 points, I'm going on the hunger strike. That's how confident I think Rice will take care of business. But hey, anything could happen. Last but not least, Southern at Mississippi Valley State playing in Jackson. I wonder if the Jackson State fans will come just to not necessarily scout, but pull for Mississippi Valley State. I'm probably reaching on that one. But I got Southern winning this ball game tomorrow. It's all about Southern. Cut down on the mistakes, penalties, and play a complete ball game. I'm looking to see them start and finish tomorrow. Southern wins tomorrow.
I got Southern winning the game. I mean, first and foremost, my prediction, Southern. But there's some asterisks behind it. They've got to find a quarterback. They've got to find a guy and stick with the guy. This two-headed system just doesn't work at the end of the day long term. Is it going to be Skelton or is it going to be McDaniel? If you keep flip-flopping quarterbacks, and we've seen it just doesn't work at the end of the day. Whoever steps up and takes that job, I'm a Skelton guy. I just like his athleticism. But if McDaniels is the guy, and he gave us trouble when we saw him just being in the pocket and making some things happen. So, but whoever steps up and takes that job, take it. But playing 2 quarterbacks, 3 quarterbacks, it just doesn't work. So we'll see if someone steps up and takes that job. But just man for man, pound for pound, offense, defense, special teams, I think Southern has the better team, albeit Valley's going to be fired up. Coach Dancy says it starts and stops with him. I think Valley will be fired up playing in Jackson, but I think Southern's the better team, and Southern will win the game.
Southern come out, hit them in the mouth right off the bat. Let them know we're here and we're ready. And I'll make a prediction. If Skelton is 100%, why not play both at the same time? Play him like a Taysom Hill. That's what I'm looking for. Well, on that note, Charles, we're going to leave out a little bit early on today's show. The pregame show coming up next, live from Jackson, Mississippi. Want to thank the following people. Roy Evans, I just simply call him producer emeritus, producer extraordinaire. Want to thank Charles Edmond for co-hosting. Also, want to thank Coach Vann Pettaway and BJ Jones, and for each and every one of you who participated and watched today's show. Remember, subscribe, like, and share. Black College Sports Network, the Coles Brown Show, and all of the shows on the network. We appreciate the support. Until next Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time for another Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until that time, peace and God bless.